G'day gardeners, welcome along to the vlog. It's getting towards the end of September now and the garden is really starting to kick into full spring mode. Days are nice and warm, although we've had a couple of cool days this week after a strong cold front come through, and we're looking at another strong cold front in the next day or two. It's also going to bring some snow in places like Tasmania, so we're looking at some cooler weather but still really nice warm start to spring. So without any further ado, let's get into the garden. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about today is our garlic, and I've talked about this for the last 3 weeks. Essentially the garlic's done. You can actually see it starting to soften up and the stems are tipping over, which is a sign that the garlic is done. I really don't have much this year. In saying that, we're not huge garlic eaters, and we've still got a leftover garlic from last year. So what I did with our glut last year was I took all the end of our cloves and I fermented them in a lacto fermentation. So we've got fermented garlic in the fridge, which does go a long way. They're quite strong, and my wife's not a huge garlic fan, so luckily for me I get to eat most of it myself. So we've still got plenty of garlic from last year in the fridge, but we really don't have much this year. Now, even though we're not going to get much out of this, I'm still not happy with it. I'd rather have nice healthy garlic. I'd rather have 6 or 8 big healthy cloves of garlic than a few sickly smaller ones. So definitely something for me to improve on next year, because last year my garlic crop was fantastic. It really was. I had a lot of garlic. The bulbs weren't huge, but I did have a lot of garlic, and the garlic was much healthier than this. So it's definitely something for me to work on going forward. No change so far with the potato onions. They're coming along nicely. They're just going to slowly fatten up over the next few weeks before harvest. Behind there, all our pots, all doing well. I've planted the Thai basil in the pots this week, so we took them out of the greenhouse and put those 2 in the pots. And the rest of those pots are doing really nice. The flowers are coming on well. Fruit trees are doing really well now. Our mini lime tree there is doing very well, the dwarf lime, sorry. I've treated that a few times now for the powdery mildew, for those little scale bugs that get on your citrus trees and cause that powdery mildew. I also had the ants were farming them, so we've dealt with the ants. Hopefully the ants won't come back, and we've been spraying it with eco oil to get rid of that scale and the powdery mildew, and hopefully we can get some nice limes from it this year. You can actually see there's some beautiful flowers and little limes coming along. Hopefully we'll get quite a few. Okay, next in line. That potato is doing very well. That's actually a store-bought potato. We're just growing that. I'm growing that as an experiment to see what happens if you grow a store-bought potato. I know plenty of people do grow them with no issues. And they say on the bag of potatoes when you buy them not to be used as a seed potato, and I understand they're not certified. And that's about it. So farmers shouldn't use them, but you can grow them. It's no big deal. It'll be interesting to see what the potato turns out like. That'll be nice. Our peas are doing very well. As you can see, we've got some really nice big fat pods coming on here, and also on the peas over here. Plenty of nice fat pods coming on, and we'll be eating peas in the next few days. So by the time of the next vlog, I would have already eaten some peas, which will be nice. Going down to this bed, our leeks are doing well. They're coming along quite nicely. I'm going to put some more soil on there again today, so I've been putting compost, sifting compost onto them, on top of them, just to build the soil up around them to get as much of that nice white part of the leek as I can. I think they call that blanching it. I'll be doing that again today, and just slowly over time just trying to get them blanched as much as I can. Over the back here you can see some spring onions there, and we've got our beets coming along really nicely. Those ones there are looking really good. The sage over the back there is just starting to flower. So I've never seen sage flowers, so it'll be interesting to see what sage flowers look like. Irregular brown onions, doing very well. No real change there, they're just getting bigger and bigger. Those stems now are very thick. Some of them are thicker than my fingers now, which is really good. Doing very well. The cabbages we planted here, they're doing okay. They could do better. Haven't seen any caterpillars yet, although we have had the moths in the yard, but haven't as of yet seen any caterpillars. They're doing okay. I've been feeding them with liquid fertilizer every week. just to get them growing really nice and strong to begin with. And I'm going to have to build a little cover for those because I don't want to cover the entire bed. So I might try and build some kind of little hoop cover that I can just put down over that section of the bed, say from that point around there, in the next week or two. So moving on, we've got some progress with the hop plants. So this one here is my Columbus hops, and you can see I've got 2 shoots coming off the rhizome already, and they're already putting out leaves very nicely. And actually 2 days ago they didn't even have leaves, so that's grown in 2 days. It's grown about 3 centimeters. And I've heard that hops, you can literally almost see them growing when they're in their full flight. So they're coming along really nice. Be really interesting to see how well they grow my first hop crop. So hopefully I can use those hops in a beer. And there's the other one. Now this one is a heirloom variety, and I've got 2 little shoots coming up there from the rhizome. Not as vigorous as the Columbus, and apparently this variety is not as vigorous as modern varieties. This is actually an heirloom variety from the 1800s that was found recently in South Australia. And the guy who found it was a horticulturalist who also grows hops. One of his friends found it and brought it to him. And he's since found another variety also growing wild in creeks in South Australia. Now they're actually introduced to South Australia. They're introduced to Australia in general. But they've found older ones, that had gone wild probably 100 plus years ago, and that are still growing to this day. So it'll be really interesting to see how this one goes. Being an heirloom variety, I will make a beer with it to suit, I think. Okay, moving on from the hops, we're going to have a quick brief look at the potatoes. Not much happening here. Potatoes are doing well. The ones that have come up are doing well. I do have some news regarding the tubers that we're chitting. We have got some nice chits coming along now, so we'll have extra tubers to put in the ground probably in a week or maybe 2 weeks tops. I will probably put, let me see, I've got a gap there of 2. I could probably get 1 or 2 in there, 1 or 2 there, maybe another one over there. So I could get at least 5, maybe 6 or 7 in here, and I'll probably just put one of them in the pots that were growing in before, and I'll put the rest of them in this main bed, because this main bed is looking pretty sparse and pretty sad. And we do eat a lot of potatoes. We love our potatoes, so a potato failure is not a good thing for us. Okay, moving on. This is our lettuce and carrot bed, and you can see they're doing very well. The carrots are looking fabulous, very healthy, and they have grown probably a good 2 inches in the last 2 weeks, at least, maybe 3, yeah, probably 3 inches in the last 2 weeks. So they're doing very well at the moment. Very happy with their progress, and we're going to be eating some really nice baby carrots probably in about 2 to 3 weeks. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. And behind that, the little gems, our semi-cos lettuces, are doing very well. I don't know what was eating them about 2 weeks ago, but whatever it was seems to have gone away because there's been no new damage. So what I suspect was we had a grub, or some grubs, and I suspect that the birds have come down and taken care of them for us. So I haven't seen any new damage. Even on the Chinese cabbage there, that damage is all old damage, and there's been no new damage, and that's starting to produce a nice heart there in the middle, which is very good to see. These 2 cabbages here are starting to look very nice, and by the time they start to crowd out the rest of this stuff will be gone. So those lettuces will be gone in about 2 or 3 weeks, and those cabbages will have all the room they want, including that one. And these carrots will slowly disappear over time. And this potato will have plenty of room soon. We'll be able to harvest these out and give this potato a bit of room as well. And once these lettuce and carrots are out of this bed, I'll probably be sowing either some more corn or tomatoes. Not sure yet which way I'm going to go, or chilies. So either the peppers, the nightshades, or some more corn. Not 100% sure yet. All right, moving on to the next bed. The extra lettuces that I sowed in here are doing very well. These are ones that I thinned out from this bed here to make space. I gently thinned them out and planted them straight back into this bed here. And behind there is bare soil, but there's actually corn coming through now. So we've sown corn in there. It's a heirloom variety. And I'll see if I can find one to show you the little spear. There it is. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but there's one right there coming out of the ground. And there's actually a few. When I start looking around, I can actually see quite a few of them coming up. So we will have nice little corn plants in another week, visible out of the ground. So what I've got to be careful of now is slugs. And I've had slugs chew off my corn seedlings before as they just come out of the ground. When they get to about a centimetre or two, I've had slugs attack them and chew the top off. So we've got to be careful the next week or two to watch for slugs. Now behind there, you can see our sunflower bed is doing very well. I'm very happy with these, very happy with them. Although you can actually see there's actually some there that are just naturally a little bit shorter than the rest. Some have taken off more than others. It's interesting how that happens. Not 100% sure why. Maybe it was just in the transplanting process they had a little bit more root damage than the other ones. Or maybe it was just the seed viability. Maybe the seeds were viable, but just not as genetically strong as some of the others. So it doesn't matter. A little bit of variation is fine. So when they grow up, we're going to have a really nice little field of sunflowers right there. Now behind the sunflowers, you can see the figs. Figs are doing very well now. I'll just move over here so we can see them better. Plenty of foliage and new branches coming up there. I'm going to have to install the wires. I've bought all the material so I can install the wires to espalier these. And while I do that, I'm going to have to remove some of these. Like that one there, I'll have to remove that one because it's growing the wrong way. It's growing backwards, and I only want them growing sideways along the fence. So that is a job for the next week or two. Now we are over in the other bed on the other side of the yard. This is where we sowed our flowers, and this is where we've got our sunflowers coming up. Well, the second crop of sunflowers. These are all volunteers. These came up from seed that was in this bed by themselves. That's why they're so random. You actually see in there, some of them are quite randomly spaced. Doing very well. Our herbs are doing well. Marjoram and mint is responding really well to some water. We've been watering these extra at the moment because it's really dry here. We've had a pretty dry start to spring. Probably about, let me think, how much rain have we had? Probably about 30 millimeters in the last 2 months, if we're lucky. So very little rainfall for us this time of year. We normally get a little bit more than that. Normally get a good 30 millimeters per month, August, September, even though September is our driest month. But this spring, it's been quite a dry start. So we've been watering this bed extra to try and get this mint and the marjoram growing back well. And I'm going to give that a haircut probably in the next week or two. I'm going to cut it. I've been shaping it into a box. So I'm just growing that as a nice square. And I've been shaping it for the last 1.5 years now, just to try and keep it into a nice square shape. Otherwise it takes over. Marjoram and its cousin, I'll get this name one day. I'll remember what it's called one day. That's the cousin of marjoram. They're almost identical, pretty much, but they both are very invasive, as well as mint. That mint there, mint is very invasive, so be warned. Putting mint in your garden, it's risky. It will grow through and take over, so just watch it. Rosemary's doing very well. The lettuce, excellent. I'm going to cut a whole bunch of leaves off that today and clean them and put them in the fridge for meals in the crisper. This rosemary, interesting story. This rosemary was actually a $1 pot at our local nursery. It was almost dead. It looked horrific, and they had a stand of like $1 or $2 pots of plants that weren't as healthy as the rest for whatever reason. Maybe missed proper watering. And we bought that, and we've managed to nurse that one back to a healthy plant, which is good. And lastly, we'll have a quick look in the greenhouse. Seedlings are doing very well in the greenhouse at the moment. I've got to keep this flap actually open now pretty much all the time. Our night times have only been getting down to about 12-14 degrees, which isn't too cold. And it's already in here right now. It's already about 35 degrees and about 100% humidity. It is really humid. It's actually taking my breath away at the moment. So I've got to keep this flap up probably every day now from now on, because it just gets too hot here, just too hot. So we're doing well. I'm going to show you a couple of things in here. These nightshades are, sorry, nightshades. These, so I've got nightshades on the brain now. These capsicums or chilies are doing quite well. And growing really well now, especially because it's really hot and humid in here. That really helps. My daughter's plants are doing really well. We haven't potted them yet. We're actually going to pot them today. So we'll get them into a big pot today for her. I want to talk quickly about the cucumbers I was growing. Now, this was all sowed with the same double yield cucumber seeds. And I had initially nothing come up. Then I had these two come up. But in the last week and a half, I've actually had two more pop up. And I was talking to another guy online about it, and it's probably just a fact that these needed just a little bit of a warmer climate to sprout. In saying that though, it's still not a really good germination rate. If you look at it, I've only got 4 plants in this entire tray, so at least I've got 4 plants. We love this cucumber. I love this cucumber. I love making pickles from this cucumber. It's an excellent variety to pickle, so I'm really looking forward to getting these healthy, getting them in the garden and get some little cucumbers growing. I also want to show you this. This is an old mini pot watering system that we bought from Bunnings many years ago. We used it a couple of times, but the problem with it was always dried out really easily and the plants in it died. They're pretty useless in Australia, honestly. Like, you need a cooler, wetter climate to have one of these. And if you're going to have it on your house somewhere where it gets some shade in the morning but not in the afternoon, and somewhere where you can water it a lot, because these little pots dry out easily. So what I decided to do was move it to the greenhouse, and I'm using it at the moment to nurse back to health these strawberries. We had a strawberry growing in a hanging pot, and it got taken over by weeds, and it was just neglected for a while we were doing other things. And I pulled it out, I depotted it last week, removed all the weed, and I managed to salvage a few of these little pieces of the strawberry plant. And I'm going to grow them in here and grow them up and nurse them back to health. And hopefully in the greenhouse, being a more humid environment, whilst they will get hot and actually quite warm to touch, while they'll stay warm, hopefully they won't dry out as easily as they do if they're out of the greenhouse in the hot sun. Okay, and lastly, I talked about this last week in a video about whether these tomatoes were too leggy or not. I actually don't believe they are now. I actually think these plants are perfect. I've got to remove those cotyledons. These actually look, to me, these look like good seedlings now that they've been transplanted into these bigger pots. I'll grow them up till they're about this big, and then we'll put them in the ground. We'll sink them right up to where the cotyledons are now. We'll sink them right up to there so they get more roots and grow them as healthy as possible. But I think they're actually looking really good now, so I'm happy with these. These are tigrellas. Actually, these aren't tigrellas. These are tigrellas, sorry. These three are the Italian sourcing variety, San Marzano. And these three at the back are mystery tomatoes, so they'll be fun to see what they turn out to be. And my dill's doing well. I've got to look after this dill. I'm hopeless with this. I've got to look after this dill because I need dill for my cucumbers. I can't have dill cucumbers without dill, so I need these to grow. I need the seeds, and actually that's starting to look a bit sad, so I'm going to get this out of the greenhouse, I think, and just get it a little bit moister after I finish this video. So there you have it, guys. That's a update today. It's the 3rd week of September here in Australia. It's getting quite hot now in Western Sydney. Garden's coming on really well. Things are growing really fast now the weather's warmed up. All we need now is just more rain. It's so dry, we just need rain now. Everything would do well with a nice water. So I hope you enjoyed the journey with me. I hope you got something out of this vlog today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and I'll try to answer them as much as I can. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.